She only wanted to prove herself, to step into the ring and chase a dream. But instead of respect, she was handed cruelty. A powerful boxer saw her not as a challenger, but as an easy target. A young black girl he believed he could break in front of everyone. What began as a fight was never meant to be fair. What happened next shook the crowd, silenced his arrogance, and revealed a truth far bigger than the ring itself. How could one moment of humiliation turn into something no one could forget? Her name was Maya. At just 16, she carried dreams larger than the small gym where she trained every evening after school. Boxing wasn't just a sport for her, it was an escape, a way to prove her strength in a world that too often doubted her worth. She wasn't rich, she wasn't famous, but she had heart. Every punch against the worn leather bag was a promise to herself. One day, they'll see me for who I am, not for the color of my skin. In her neighborhood, people knew her as the quiet fighter. She didn't talk much about her struggles, about the whispers in school, the side glances, the way opportunities seemed to slip past her no matter how hard she worked. Instead, she poured everything into the ring. The gym smelled of sweat and determination, and under those harsh fluorescent lights, Maya felt alive. But beyond the ropes, not everyone shared her passion. Some saw her as a novelty, others as a joke. And among them was a man who held power in the boxing world, a seasoned fighter, arrogant and cruel. To him, Maya was never an athlete. She was a chance to make a spectacle, to remind everyone of the lines he believed should never be crossed. Maya didn't know it yet, but the fight she dreamed of, the one she thought could prove her worth, was about to become something darker. A stage was being set, not for her triumph, but for her humiliation. And as the day drew closer, she had no idea how far her opponent was willing to go to make sure the world laughed at her pain. The night of the fight arrived, and the gym was packed tighter than Maya had ever seen. The crowd wasn't here to celebrate her talent. They were here for a show, for the cruel spectacle her opponent had promised. Whispers ran through the seats like wildfire. He's gonna destroy her. This girl doesn't stand a chance. Some laughed, some shook their heads. Few believed she belonged in that ring at all. Maya felt every eye on her as she laced her gloves. Her heart pounded, not from fear of punches, but from the weight of what this fight represented. She wasn't just facing an opponent. She was standing against every sneer, every dismissive glance, every barrier that had been placed in her path because of her race and her age. Still, she walked toward the ring with her chin held high. Then came the entrance of the man who had set the stage. The arrogant boxer strode in like a king entering his court, grinning at the jeers and applause. He pointed at Maya, mocking her with exaggerated bows, laughing as though she were nothing more than entertainment. The crowd joined in, their laughter sharp and cruel. Maya clenched her fists tighter, the noise echoing in her chest like a drumbeat. The bell rang. From the very first punch, it was clear he wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to humiliate. He taunted her, danced around her, throwing quick jabs not meant to hurt, but to embarrass. Every time she tried to strike back, he exaggerated his movements, pretending her punches were harmless, drawing roars of laughter from the crowd. Still, Maya refused to back down. Sweat dripped into her eyes, her body ached, but she kept moving forward. Each jab she landed, even the light ones, was a small defiance, a refusal to give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. But the more she resisted, the harsher his blows became. He stopped playing. The punches grew heavier, sharper, meant to end not just the fight, but her spirit. The crowd, once laughing, began to shift uncomfortably. The spectacle was turning darker. Maya staggered, but with every stumble, she forced herself back up. Her vision blurred, her breath came ragged, yet her eyes never left his. She would not give him the victory he craved. And then it happened. One strike too many. The blow sent Maya sprawling to the canvas. Gasps filled the gym. For a moment she lay still, the world spinning, the taunts of her opponent ringing in her ears. To him, it was over. He raised his arms in mock triumph, already celebrating. But Maya's story wasn't finished. Slowly, against the weight of every doubt and every insult, she began to rise. The room fell silent. The arrogant grin faded from his face. Something was shifting, and no one in that crowd could have predicted what would happen next. The gym vibrated with silence as Maya pushed herself up from the mat, her legs trembling but her eyes burning with something unbreakable. The arrogant boxer's smirk faltered. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to stay down, to accept the humiliation he had planned for her. But Maya refused to give him that victory. The referee hesitated, almost ready to call the match. Yet Maya raised her gloves, signaling she wasn't done. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The man across from her snarled, his pride stung by the defiance of a girl he thought beneath him. He charged forward, fists flying, not just punches, but an assault fueled by rage and prejudice. Each strike landed heavy, cruel. Maya's body bent under the weight, but her spirit held firm. The audience could feel it. The fight was no longer about boxing. It was about power, about dignity, about the right to exist without being crushed. Every time Maya stumbled and stood again, the crowd's laughter dimmed, replaced by awe. And then the moment came. The arrogant boxer, desperate to end her resistance, wound up for a final, brutal blow meant to finish her completely. Time seemed to slow. Maya's vision tunneled, her body screamed in pain, but her heart, her will, refused to break. With every ounce of strength left, she ducked under his swing and drove her fist forward. The sound of her glove cracking against his jaw echoed through the gym like thunder. The giant stumbled, shock painted across his face. For the first time, he looked small. The crowd erupted, some in disbelief, others in roaring support. Maya stood tall, battered but unbroken, as her opponent crashed to the canvas. And in that breathless silence that followed, one truth was undeniable. She had turned humiliation into history. Maya didn't leave that gym with a championship belt or a trophy. She left with something far greater, a victory that could never be measured on a scorecard. She had stood against humiliation, against cruelty, against a world that told her she didn't belong. And by refusing to stay down, she proved something undeniable. Her worth could never be decided by another person's prejudice. The arrogant boxer's defeat spread through whispers and headlines, but for Maya, it wasn't about the spectacle. It was about every young girl who had ever been told she was too small, too weak, too different. In the weeks that followed, people looked at her differently. Some with admiration, some with shame. But for Maya, the fight wasn't just that night. It was a reminder that racism doesn't always wear a uniform or shout its name. It hides in the jokes, the dismissals, the unfair fights we're forced into every day. And yet, with courage, it can be confronted. Her story isn't hers. It echoes in classrooms, workplaces, neighborhoods, and arenas across the world. One young girl, standing bloodied but unbroken, forced people to see what happens when prejudice meets resilience. And so, the question lingers. How many more Mayas will be forced to fight battles they should never have to face? And when the world watches, will it laugh, or will it finally stand with them?